And then you just really pay attention to the eggs in your basket versus having too many eggs that you don't even know what they are. Different than what most people are taught in the common world of investing, but it's not different than what the wealthiest people do. It's actually what they do. They only start diversifying when they've really hit home runs and have good cash flow streams, and they can have it managed because they have the right CEO, CFO, or something like that before they go to the next realm of deals. I know some people are just listening on audio, but for those that are seeing this on video, I just got this on my hands yesterday at the time that we're recording this. This is my children's book that comes out in January. It's called I Am Money, I Don't Grow on Trees. It's beautiful. It's like a piece of art. I'm dedicated to planting a seed of hope, connection, and expression in the hearts of 1 billion people before I die, using entertainment as a gateway to transformation and help people restore love to their life and heal their relationship with money. So I've written 9 other books. My other book, Money Unmasked, just came out, doing pretty well out the gate. So excited about that. Like, first, we're almost 2 months in. It'll be 2 months in December by probably the time this is live. We sold like 8,200 copies so far, so that's kind of exciting. But yeah, I love to write. I fell in love with it. I was scared to write when I started. I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, but I was in my early 20s when I wrote it. I can't believe I knew what I knew. I just had an insatiable curiosity, asked a lot of questions. But here I am still writing more and enjoying that process because I think that money's an intimidating topic for a lot of people and a boring topic for a lot of people, but critically important. So I've been dedicating myself to the craft of like, how do I make it more accessible, more enjoyable, and more memorable so that people can really take actionable steps to improve their life. So I built and sold an Inc. 500 financial firm. Just sold it in 2021, filmed the comedy special. I'm kind of like, I went to Italy years ago and it became like a renaissance afterwards. I like came back, got my whiskey somm. I learned how to make a good latte and pour over coffee and started to fly fish a little bit because I just feel like wealth is a byproduct of a life well lived. So how can I live life really well? How can I enjoy it along the way and kind of master the art of living and blend and blur those lines between work and play, which isn't always easy. Like I've been going through a couple months where I'm just trying to figure that out a little bit more because I have had a lot of opportunity and I've had certain separation from old businesses. So it's a journey and I don't have it all figured out, but I like to talk about it along the way. Money Unmasked, I know it's my most recent book, but it's the book that delves into that by far more than the other ones. The second one, though, would be Disrupting Sacred Cows, because I really go into like childhood and what happens in our childhood and how that shapes our kind of our money memory. And then like I have 3 pages of resources at the end that are like, hey, these are the things I'm not an expert in, but help us deal with those childhood things. People have had really good progress on that. But Money Unmasked gets into your money persona. You know, there's 4 different personas. There's a shadow side and a winning side. It can really show us our footprints, what leads to failure or what leads to more abundance and prosperity. And so it can be a lot more predictable and then we can avoid some of the missteps and mistakes and also understand the dynamic of other money personas that we're in relationship with, whether that's a spouse or a business partner or whoever it is, that really informs us how they go about making their choices. Yeah, and I still am cultivating some. Like I just realized recently, like one of my early memories of money was when it was really tough because my dad worked for coal mines, and when the unions would go on strike, all of a sudden they're like doing everything they can to make ends meet. I make enough money, my family won't have to suffer. I really feel like there's a design in society to intentionally create this gap where we're yearning to earn more, and we get in that hustle and grind, and we think that if we just have more, we'll be happier, and they get us convinced that it's the awards, the accolades, and the future, and the goals, and the revenue, and we just sacrifice our whole life for that, and then we get there and it feels hollow, because if you get there alone, you lost. If you lose your health and get there, you lost. If you destroy all your meaningful relationships, or you have to repair them, that's something that could take 10 times longer than it ever took to make the money in the first place. It's just so much of fake book and all this kind of stuff where people are just putting this lifestyle up there that's not real. And by the way, I just think that it's human nature to compare our worst to someone's best. And by the way, they're false best. They're presented best. Part of what attracts me to people is when they're more vulnerable, when they're willing to share their scars, when they're willing to talk about their lessons, when they're not acting like they just had it all figured out all the time forever, and at the same time celebrate the victories and celebrate their wins and understand that they do achieve great things. And that's a great thing to cheer on because it shows possibility. It's listed as the number 1 reason for divorce. I think what happens is when we have money troubles, we stop dreaming about a better future and we think our past was better because that turmoil kind of stifles all vision. And if all of a sudden everything's about we've lost energy, we're frustrated, we're feeling scarce, a lot of people have a hard time accepting responsibility and taking a better step, so they start start blaming their spouse. They start projecting upon them. Like I know in 2008 when the market went down, I had a lot of real estate. Like that really triggered me being like, am I valuable of being loved? Like, cause I saw so much of my identity and I had growth for 10 consecutive years, Inc. 500, New York Times, financial author. And it's like, oh, I'm more fragile than I thought. I'm exposed because I'm over leveraged. And it really was psychologically tough for me to be like, all right, well, who am I now that I'm not in growth mode for 10 straight years? I was really naive. Like I remember I got interviewed for this magazine and they put me on the cover. I was on the salt flats with my Bentley trying to look all cool and they are like, well, what do you want? You know, what's next for you? I'm like, oh, I've made so much money, I could never spend it. It's just, what can I do to pay it forward? And then for the next 2 years, I just watched all that money just go down the drain to banks and institutions, to equity just being demolished because I didn't know my investor DNA. I was trying to just hit goals without knowing, like, who am I? What do I really want? What's my winning game? What am I going to do? What am I not going to do? Everything was just kind of about more. And more is a seductive temptress that can move us away from who we are in pursuit of something that we can never achieve. And in that pursuit, we lose because it's never enough. And that's a tough, insatiable appetite to come to terms with. Like, I want to have these things that don't even seem like they could be possible together, like growth and contentment. What about having both? What about being content with who I am, but also still growing over time, learning my lessons, impacting more people, but at the same time, taking some time off, enjoying life along the way. You know, it's not an either or, but a lot of times it's designed to make us think that it is. Like, it's not congruent. So you're battling uphill versus finding that effortless low, which is what your investor DNA is. The first thing with investor DNA is I think that we have to give up this notion of being completely passive investors, where we're portfolio investors that just hand our money over and hope for the best because they're smarter than us. And instead look at, like, what if we pick one of the big three? Intellectual property. That's my main investment. I like to write books. I like to create courses. I like to, create keynotes. Intellectual property is the game that I love. Real estate, but real estate that you could touch. Like, not just some REIT that you just have no idea what's going on with it, right? Or businesses. Like, maybe you pick one of those lanes, maybe you eventually do all three, but those are the big three to really advance. You just have to figure out what your investor DNA. See, I don't love the real estate that I used to do, where I was just buying apartment complexes or, duplexes, fourplexes that I never really went to. I was just giving my money. I was talking to bankers. I was talking to property managers. Now I'm like, I have property I could drive to that I could rent out to my businesses, and I don't have to go outside of those businesses because podcast studio's there. It's where I do my one-on-one cash cabin immersions, or I build a music studio. And I know these are places where there's nothing for sale. It's a very valuable area that I personally know. But the hard thing for me was to try not to own everything, because the old me was like, I just should do more. I should own more properties. I own 109. That's not enough. Someone else owns 110 or 200. And so I didn't really have a plan other than more. And so now it's like, part of my framework is, does it improve my quality of life? And when I have an investment, I go, how much of that can enhance my quality of life today? How much of that can enhance my skill sets because I invest back into me? And how much of it can enhance my cash flow? And I start breaking it into those three categories of the big three: intellectual property, real estate, and businesses. And then investing in myself, which is skill sets, investing in my quality of life, which is my overall energy and enjoyment, and then investing in my cash flow. And so it's a different type of portfolio. I don't accumulate. Accumulation says wait for 30 years and then you can live off your interest. I want to accelerate, which says focus on cash flow, and velocity, which is how do I get my money to turn more than once, and how do I get that to create economic independence. I don't go for retirement because I want to build a life I don't ever want to retire from. So economic independence replaces retirement, because now when I have my assets kicking off enough cash flow, I can swing for the fences in everything I do, knowing that my foundation is handled. And at the center of this is investor DNA, not diversification. Most people are sold diversification, which is a great strategy if you're already wealthy. It's how you might preserve your wealth. But on the ride to wealth, diversification is diversification, because you spread yourself thin, you slow it down, and you're not related to the outcome of that investment. We only diversify prematurely when we rely on other people to make our investments for us and not ourselves. And part of it, we've just been lied to and we bought into the lie. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough time. I've just got to trust the experts. Our salespeople handing it off to someone they've never met. So we're further removed from the outcome. And this is where a lot of risk comes from. Invest first in yourself so you can make more money. That's the first process. The second is, before you try to scrimp, save or sacrifice or even budget, let's plug your financial leak. Let's save money on taxes, on interest, on non-performing investment fees, or on insurance costs that could be removed. Let's remove those for efficiency. So make more, then keep more, then learn how to grow your money. Growing your money is a little bit more involved than people really want to believe, and it's a little bit more complicated if you get involved in too many things, because you can never be an expert at that number of things and still have a quality of life. Pick a lane and focus. And then you make sure to do risk management and risk mitigation so that you're not overextended. Like, building your foundation makes a difference. Creating sustainable structures like asset protection and liability and transferring risk is important. And then you just really pay attention to the eggs in your basket versus having too many eggs that you don't even know what they are. Different than what most people are taught in the common world of investing, but it's not different than what the wealthiest people do. It's actually what they do. They only start diversifying when they've really hit home runs and have good cash flow streams, and they can have it managed because they have the right CEO, CFO, or something like that before they go to the next realm of deals. Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you're enjoying these videos, well, there's good news. More where that came from, so go ahead and click through and watch the next video now.